Grow with Age, Why Getting Older Should Mean Getting Better, published by the Growth Mind Audiobook. Introduction. There comes a moment in every life when the calendar quietly stops being a record of birthdays and starts becoming a mirror. It no longer asks, "How many years have you lived?" It asks something far more important. What have those years made of you? That question changes everything. Most people spend their lives negotiating with time. They celebrate youth as if it were an achievement, resist aging as if it were a failure, and hope that somehow the future will become better without requiring them to become better first. They wait for confidence to appear, for purpose to arrive, for happiness to stay, and for life to finally feel complete. But time has never made those promises. Time offers only one guarantee. It will reveal the direction you're already moving. Picture an old lighthouse standing alone on a rugged shoreline. Every storm leaves its mark. The paint fades. The stone carries the scars of wind and salt. Yet with each passing season, the lighthouse becomes more valuable, not less. It has guided more ships, survived more storms, and earned more trust than it ever possessed when it was brand new. Its strength is not found in looking untouched. Its strength is found in proving that it can still stand. Human life follows the same principle. Your value does not come from preserving yesterday. It comes from expanding what tomorrow can become. This audiobook is an invitation to reject the idea that aging is a slow surrender. Instead, you'll discover a different way to measure life, one that values growth over appearance, wisdom over speed, resilience over comfort, and purpose over popularity. Here, every year is treated as an opportunity to increase your capacity rather than reduce your potential. You will not find borrowed success formulas, recycled motivational cliches, or familiar stories repeated from other books. Instead, this journey is built on original concepts, fresh metaphors, and practical ideas designed to help you think differently about the years ahead. Each chapter naturally grows out of the one before it, carrying you through a complete transformation from changing how you see time to changing who you become because of it. By the end of this audiobook, the goal is not simply to feel inspired. Inspiration fades. The goal is to leave with a new standard for living, a standard that refuses to let another year pass without becoming stronger in character, sharper in thought, healthier in body, richer in relationships, calmer under pressure, and clearer in purpose. Because growing older is not an accomplishment. Everyone who is fortunate enough to live will do that. Growing better is different. It demands intention when comfort invites complacency. It requires courage when change feels uncertain. It asks for discipline when excuses seem easier. And it rewards those choices by turning ordinary years into extraordinary ones. So, before we begin, make one quiet promise to yourself. Do not measure the years that remain. Measure the person you will become within them. From this moment forward, let every sunrise become a reason to improve, every challenge become another layer of strength, and every passing year become undeniable proof that your greatest achievement is not that you have grown older, but that you have grown better. Chapter 1. Destroy the myth that aging means decline. Before you can build a better future, you must first demolish a dangerous illusion. Every meaningful transformation begins the same way, not by adding something new, but by removing something false. The greatest obstacle standing between you and a fulfilling life isn't your age. It is the story you've been told about your age. From childhood, we absorb a quiet message that grows louder over time. We celebrate being young, admire being at our peak, and fear everything that comes after. Wrinkles are described as problems to solve. Gray hair becomes something to hide. Birthdays slowly shift from joyful celebrations into reminders that time is slipping away. Without realizing it, many people begin measuring their future by what they believe they are losing instead of what they are still capable of becoming. But pause for a moment and ask yourself a simple question. Who decided that getting older should automatically mean becoming less? Nature certainly didn't. A tree does not apologize for adding another ring to its trunk. A river does not lose its purpose because it has traveled farther. A mountain does not become less magnificent because it has endured countless seasons. Their value increases because of what they have survived, not because they have remained unchanged. Why should human life follow a different rule? Imagine two blacksmiths working in separate workshops. Both begin with identical pieces of steel. The first leaves his metal untouched, believing that time alone will somehow strengthen it. Years pass, but the steel remains exactly as it was, ordinary, untested, and fragile. The second blacksmith returns to his forge every day. He heats the steel, shapes it, cools it, and refines it again and again. Each challenge leaves the metal stronger than before. When years have passed, both pieces of steel are older, but only one has become a masterwork. Your life follows the same principle. Time is not the craftsman. You are. Every experience, every disappointment, every success, and every difficult conversation places another tool in your hands. You can ignore those tools, or you can use them to shape someone wiser, calmer, stronger, and more capable than the person you were yesterday. Age simply reveals whether you have been doing the work. Many people mistake familiarity for growth. They repeat the same habits, hold the same beliefs, avoid the same risks, and then wonder why life feels smaller with each passing year. They think they are gaining experience, but they are only repeating routines. Real experience is not measured by how long you have lived. It is measured by how deeply you have learned. Think of your character as a library that writes a new page every single day. Some people keep copying the same paragraph over and over until the entire book becomes predictable. Others fill each page with fresh lessons, greater wisdom, stronger discipline, and deeper understanding. At the end of many years, both libraries contain the same number of pages, but only one contains a story worth reading. This is why growing older and growing better are not the same journey. Growing older happens without permission. Growing better requires deliberate action. It demands curiosity when certainty feels comfortable. It demands courage when fear whispers that change is too late. It demands humility to admit that no matter how many years you've lived, there is always another lesson waiting to shape you. The remarkable truth is that your future is not being decided by the number of birthdays behind you. It is being shaped by the choices you make today. Every decision becomes another brick in the foundation of the person you are becoming. Every habit either strengthens that foundation or quietly weakens it. From this moment forward, stop asking whether you are getting older. That question has only one answer. Instead, ask a far more powerful one. What am I becoming because of these years? The answer to that question will determine whether time becomes your greatest limitation or your greatest ally. And once you accept that your future is built by your choices rather than your age, you are ready for the next step. It is time to stop letting life shape you by accident and begin shaping yourself with intention. Chapter 2. Build the person time cannot defeat. Once you've rejected the belief that age is your enemy, another question naturally rises to the surface. If time isn't deciding your future, then what is? The answer is both simple and demanding. You are. Not the version of you that appears in family photographs, not the person reflected in the mirror each morning. The real architect of your future is the invisible person created by your daily decisions. Long before the world notices who you have become, your habits have already been building that person in silence. Most people imagine change as a dramatic event, a new career, a fresh beginning, a major achievement, or a life-changing decision. But genuine transformation rarely arrives with applause. It is usually assembled in moments so ordinary that they seem insignificant. A conversation handled with patience instead of anger. A promise kept when no one is watching. A difficult task completed instead of postponed. A new skill practiced after a long day when comfort whispers that tomorrow is good enough. These moments seem too small to matter. Until years pass. Imagine an empty workshop where a master builder begins constructing a cathedral. On the first day, a visitor walks in and sees almost nothing. A few marked lines on the ground, several carefully selected stones, a handful of tools. It would be easy to laugh and ask, "Where is the cathedral?" Return a week later and the answer looks much the same. Return a month later and progress still appears slow. But return 20 years later and the same place has become something extraordinary. Towers reach toward the sky. Light pours through stained glass. Every stone supports another, and every decision made years before now carries immense weight. The cathedral was never built in a single moment. It was built one carefully placed stone at a time. Your identity follows the same pattern. Every decision is another stone. Every habit becomes part of the structure. Every repeated action either strengthens the walls or quietly creates cracks that will appear much later. Whether you realize it or not, you are always under construction. The mistake many people make is waiting until they feel motivated before they begin building. They assume confidence comes first and action follows. In reality, the opposite is usually true. Confidence is often the reward for consistent action, not the starting point. Think about a key being cut for a lock. At first, it is nothing more than a smooth piece of metal. Then, one careful cut is made. By itself, it changes almost nothing. Another cut follows. Then another. Individually, each adjustment seems too small to matter, yet eventually, those tiny refinements create something remarkable. The key fits perfectly because of hundreds of precise decisions, not one dramatic change. Character is shaped in much the same way. Small improvements rarely impress anyone today. Their true power is revealed only after they have been repeated often enough to become part of who you are. This is why shortcuts are so dangerous. A shortcut may save time today, but it often steals strength tomorrow. When you avoid difficult conversations, you weaken courage. When you abandon discipline for convenience, you weaken resilience. When you stop learning because you think you already know enough, curiosity quietly disappears. None of these losses happen overnight. They accumulate gradually, almost invisibly, until one day you discover that your potential has been traded for comfort. The encouraging news is that the opposite is also true. Every act of discipline deposits strength into your future. Every challenge faced instead of avoided expands your capacity. Every lesson learned replaces uncertainty with understanding. The person you are becoming is not determined by extraordinary days, but by ordinary days, repeated with intention. Consider a gardener planting an orchard. No one plants a single seed expecting immediate shade. The gardener understands that growth follows its own rhythm. The first responsibility is not harvesting fruit, it is protecting the roots. Healthy roots eventually create healthy branches, and healthy branches eventually produce abundant fruit. Many people reverse that order. They chase visible success before developing the invisible qualities capable of sustaining it. They want recognition before responsibility, results before discipline, and achievement before preparation. Yet lasting success always grows from hidden foundations. Your values are those roots. Integrity is a root. Patience is a root. Discipline is a root. Curiosity is a root. Kindness is a root. When these qualities grow deeper year after year, the visible parts of your life become stronger almost naturally. There will always be circumstances beyond your control. Markets change, technology evolves, relationships shift, Health may face unexpected challenges. Entire seasons of life can transform without warning. You cannot control every storm that arrives, but you can become the kind of person who remains steady while the winds change around you. That is the difference between living at the mercy of time and living with mastery over yourself. Time cannot defeat a person who continues to learn. It cannot diminish someone who refuses to stop growing. It cannot discourage a person whose purpose becomes clearer with every challenge. The years may change your appearance, but they never have the final word on your character. That decision belongs to you alone. So beginning today, stop asking whether life is giving you enough opportunities. Instead, ask whether you are becoming someone capable of using the opportunities already in front of you. Because once your character becomes stronger than your circumstances, time stops feeling like an opponent. It becomes your greatest partner in building a life that grows more meaningful with every passing year. Chapter 3. Forge a body that gets stronger with time. A strong character needs a strong foundation. You can possess extraordinary dreams, clear purpose, and unwavering determination, but sooner or later they must all pass through the same gateway, your body. It is the vehicle that carries every ambition, every relationship, every adventure, and every act of service. Ignore that vehicle long enough, and even the brightest vision struggles to move forward. Many people see their bodies as clocks that can only count down. They expect less energy each year, less strength with every decade, and fewer possibilities as time moves on. Because they expect decline, they unknowingly cooperate with it. They move less, rest poorly, eat carelessly, and slowly surrender abilities they were capable of protecting. But the body tells a different story. It responds to attention. It adapts to challenge. It rewards consistency. Imagine an old bridge connecting two thriving cities. Thousands of people cross it every day. Seasons change. Heavy storms arrive. Summer heat expands the steel while winter cold contracts it. The bridge grows older, but its future depends on something more important than its age. Engineers inspect it regularly, replace worn pieces before they fail, strengthen weak points, and protect its foundation from damage. Because it is cared for, the bridge continues carrying generations safely across. Now imagine another bridge left untouched. Tiny cracks are ignored. Rust quietly spreads beneath the surface. Small repairs are postponed because they seem unimportant. For years, nothing dramatic happens. Then, one day, a problem that once required a simple repair demands an expensive reconstruction. The difference was never time alone. It was maintenance. Your body works in remarkably similar ways. Health is rarely lost in a single dramatic moment. More often, it fades through small decisions repeated for years. A skipped walk becomes a habit. Poor sleep becomes normal. Convenience replaces nourishment. Movement becomes optional. The body patiently adapts to every choice, whether that choice strengthens it or weakens it. Fortunately, this truth works both ways. Every healthy decision becomes a quiet investment whose value grows over time. Think of physical well-being as building a reserve rather than chasing perfection. Most people prepare only for today's demands. They want enough energy to finish the workday or enough strength to complete a workout. But imagine living differently. Imagine preparing your body not only for today, but also for challenges that haven't arrived yet. Picture two travelers setting out on a long expedition across unfamiliar landscapes. The first packs only what feels necessary for the opening miles. The second carefully prepares for changing weather, unexpected obstacles, and longer distances than expected. When difficult conditions appear, one traveler immediately struggles while the other keeps moving with confidence, not because the road became easier, but because preparation had already taken place. Your health deserves the same long-term thinking. Every walk strengthens more than your legs. It strengthens your independence. Every nourishing meal supports more than today's energy. It supports tomorrow's opportunities. Every hour of quality sleep restores more than tired muscles. It sharpens judgment, patience, creativity, and emotional balance. Movement is not punishment for what you've eaten. It is practice for the life you still want to live. One of the greatest misconceptions about fitness is that it belongs to youth. In reality, movement becomes more valuable as the years pass. Strength protects balance. Flexibility protects freedom. Endurance protects confidence. Mobility protects independence. None of these qualities exist to impress other people. They exist to preserve your ability to fully participate in your own life. Think of your body as a trusted traveling companion. If you ignored a loyal friend for years, spoke harshly to them, demanded endless work without rest, and offered little care in return, that friendship would eventually break down. Yet many people treat their own bodies this way. They criticize instead of appreciate. They compare instead of improve. They demand performance while neglecting recovery. A wiser approach begins with partnership instead of conflict. Listen when your body asks for rest, but do not confuse rest with surrender. Challenge your limits, but do not mistake exhaustion for progress. Feed yourself with intention, not merely with convenience. Treat health as stewardship rather than appearance. The goal is not to preserve the body exactly as it was 20 years ago. That battle cannot be won. The real victory is building a body that remains capable, resilient, and dependable through every stage of life. Remember the person you began creating in the previous chapter, the one built one deliberate choice at a time. Your body becomes the physical expression of those same choices. Discipline is no longer an abstract idea. It becomes visible in the way you move, recover, breathe, and care for yourself every day. A healthy body does something remarkable. It gives your character room to operate. It allows your kindness to reach more people because you have the energy to serve. It allows your curiosity to explore because you are strong enough to keep learning. It allows your purpose to endure because you are prepared for a longer journey. As you continue growing older, stop asking whether your body still looks young. Ask a better question. Is my body becoming more capable of carrying the life I want to live? That question changes everything, because the strongest body is not the one that appears the youngest. It is the one that continues opening doors to meaningful work, deeper relationships, bold adventures, and purposeful living long after others have accepted unnecessary limits. And once your body becomes an ally instead of an afterthought, you are ready to strengthen the one place where every lasting transformation truly begins: your mind. Chapter 4. Train your mind to outgrow every decade. A resilient body can carry you farther, but it is your mind that decides where you are willing to go. Long before people become limited by age, many become limited by the beliefs they refuse to question. Muscles weaken when they are neglected, but so does the imagination. Curiosity fades when it is replaced by certainty, and growth slows the moment someone believes they have nothing left to learn. The most dangerous sentence a person can quietly tell themselves is not, "I'm getting older." It is, "I've already figured life out." The moment that thought settles into your mind, progress begins to stall. Imagine a window that has never been opened. Year after year, dust gathers on the glass. From inside the room, the world begins to look smaller, dimmer, and less inviting. The problem is not that the landscape has disappeared. The problem is that the window has remained closed for too long. The human mind works in much the same way. Every new idea opens the window a little wider. Every unfamiliar conversation lets fresh air enter. Every skill you struggle to learn wipes away another layer of dust. Suddenly, possibilities that once seemed distant become visible again. Learning is not about collecting information. It is about expanding perspective. There is an important difference between knowledge and growth. Knowledge is knowing more facts. Growth is becoming a different person because of what those facts teach you. One fills your memory, the other reshapes your thinking. Picture a sailor crossing an enormous ocean. Before every voyage, the sailor studies updated maps, changing currents, and new weather patterns. Imagine if that sailor insisted on navigating with maps drawn 50 years ago. The sea would not adjust to outdated knowledge. The journey would become increasingly dangerous, not because the sailor lacked experience, but because experience stopped evolving. Life changes just as quickly. New technologies emerge, industries transform, relationships evolve, cultures shift. Even your own priorities change with time. A flexible mind adapts without losing its principles. A rigid mind mistakes familiarity for safety and slowly becomes disconnected from the world it lives in. This is why curiosity is one of the greatest forms of strength. Curiosity keeps pride from becoming arrogance. It keeps wisdom from becoming stubbornness. It reminds you that every person you meet understands something you do not, and every challenge carries a lesson that cannot be learned in comfort alone. Think of your mind as a garden rather than a storage room. A storage room simply collects more objects until there is no space left. A garden is different. It requires planting, pruning, watering, and patience. Some ideas deserve to grow. Others have outlived their purpose and must be removed so healthier ones can flourish. Many people continue watering beliefs that stopped serving them years ago. They cling to old fears, outdated assumptions, and inherited opinions simply because they have carried them for a long time. But age should increase wisdom, not attachment. Sometimes growing means letting go of ideas that once felt permanent. Every decade offers an invitation to become mentally lighter. You no longer need to prove that you know everything. You become more comfortable asking thoughtful questions. You listen more carefully. You change your mind when evidence demands it. Instead of protecting your ego, you protect your ability to keep learning. There is quiet confidence in saying, "I hadn't considered that before." That sentence is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence that your mind is still alive. The people who continue growing throughout life rarely possess extraordinary intelligence. They possess extraordinary openness. They remain students even after becoming teachers. They approach unfamiliar experiences with interest instead of fear. They understand that every ending is also the beginning of another education. As your years increase, let your perspective expand with them. Read beyond your usual interests. Speak with people whose experiences differ from your own. Learn skills that remind you what it feels like to be a beginner. Protect your curiosity as carefully as you protect your health, because both determine the quality of your future. A growing mind refuses to become trapped by yesterday's version of reality. It keeps searching, adapting, and discovering. And when your thinking continues to evolve, every new decade becomes less about repeating the past and more about creating a future richer than anything you've experienced before. Because the mind that never stops learning never truly grows old. And once your thinking becomes more expansive than your fears, you are ready for the next step in this journey, releasing the emotional weight that quietly keeps so many people from moving forward. Chapter 5. Eliminate the weight slowing your future. By now you have challenged the fear of aging, begun shaping your character with intention, strengthened your body, and expanded your mind. Yet there is another obstacle that quietly limits countless lives. It cannot be seen in a mirror or measured on a scale, but it influences every decision you make. It is emotional weight. Unlike a heavy backpack, this burden is invisible. It is made of unresolved disappointments, old failures, broken expectations, unnecessary guilt, lingering resentment, and outdated versions of yourself that you continue to carry long after they have served their purpose. Many people spend years trying to move forward without realizing they are dragging the past behind them. Imagine a traveler preparing for a long journey. Before leaving, they begin filling a suitcase. At first, every item seems important. Then they add things they might need. Then, sentimental objects they cannot imagine leaving behind. Soon the suitcase becomes so heavy that every step requires enormous effort. The road itself hasn't become harder. The traveler has simply packed too much. Life works the same way. Not everything that belongs to your past deserves a place in your future. One mistake many years ago does not deserve permanent residence in your identity. A harsh criticism from someone else does not deserve lifelong authority over your confidence. A failure that once embarrassed you does not deserve to become the definition of who you are. Experiences should become teachers, not landlords. Teachers give you a lesson and then allow you to continue your journey. Landlords keep charging you rent every single day. Many people unknowingly allow yesterday's disappointments to collect emotional rent for decades. They replay conversations that cannot be changed. They revisit opportunities that have already passed. They continue arguing with memories that are incapable of answering back. Eventually, they become experts at remembering instead of living. Picture an old ship crossing the ocean. Tiny sea creatures slowly attach themselves to its hull. One by one, they seem harmless. But after years without cleaning, the ship becomes slower. It requires more fuel, more effort, and more time to reach every destination. The ocean hasn't become larger. The hidden weight beneath the surface has become greater. The same thing happens within us. Small disappointments that remain unexamined slowly accumulate. Tiny resentments harden into bitterness. Minor regrets become lifelong stories. Fear quietly disguises itself as caution. Before long, the person is no longer being limited by age. They are being limited by everything they refuse to release. Letting go is often misunderstood. It does not mean pretending painful experiences never happened. It does not erase grief, erase betrayal, or erase loss. Instead, it changes your relationship with those experiences. You stop asking them to define your future and begin allowing them to strengthen your wisdom. A broken branch can become part of a campfire that provides warmth. A difficult season can become the reason you recognize joy more deeply. A disappointment can become the moment that redirected your life towards something better. Pain is transformed when it is given a purpose. There is another kind of weight that deserves attention. The weight of outdated identities. Many people continue introducing themselves to the world with stories that no longer belong to them. I've never been confident. I'm just not creative. I've always struggled with change. I'm too old to start over. Notice how easily these sentences become permanent labels instead of temporary observations. But people are not statues. They are manuscripts. A manuscript is revised. Chapters are rewritten. Weak paragraphs are strengthened. Entire sections can be replaced without destroying the story. The past may explain where the story began, but it should never decide how it ends. As you grow older, give yourself permission to edit your identity. Become known for who you are becoming, not only for who you once were. This requires forgiveness, not because others always deserve it, but because your future deserves freedom. Holding on to anger is like trying to carry a burning ember with the hope that someone else will feel the heat. The longer you grip it, the more damage it causes to your own hands. Forgiveness does not always restore relationships. Sometimes it simply restores peace, and peace creates space. Space for fresh ideas, space for meaningful relationships, space for courage, space for joy. The years ahead should not become heavier simply because more years have passed. They should become lighter because you have become wiser about what is worth carrying. So before you ask what more you need to add to your life, ask something far more powerful. What can I finally put down? Because growth is not only the result of what you build, it is also the result of what you choose to release. And once you stop carrying yesterday on your shoulders, you will discover something remarkable. You finally have both the strength and the space to build deeper, richer relationships with the people walking beside you. Chapter 6. Strengthen relationships that grow richer with time. After releasing the emotional weight that no longer belongs in your life, you create something precious: space. The question is, what will you fill that space with? The answer will shape the quality of every year ahead. Success can make life more comfortable. Knowledge can make life more capable. Health can make life more active. But relationships give all of those things meaning. A life filled with accomplishments and empty of genuine connection is like a beautifully furnished house with no one inside to share it. Everything may look complete from the outside, yet something essential is missing. As people grow older, they often discover a surprising truth. The moments they remember most are rarely connected to possessions or personal achievements. They remember conversations that changed their perspective, friendships that survived difficult seasons, family members who stood beside them when life became uncertain, and strangers whose unexpected kindness arrived at exactly the right moment. Relationships are not interruptions to life. They are life. Imagine a small village where every home is connected by hand-built wooden bridges crossing a network of streams. Each bridge represents trust between two people. When those bridges are inspected, repaired, and strengthened, the entire village flourishes. People exchange ideas, offer help, celebrate victories, and overcome hardships together. But if every bridge is neglected, the homes gradually become isolated. The buildings remain standing, yet the community slowly disappears. Human relationships work in exactly the same way. Connection is built through maintenance, not assumption. Many friendships don't disappear because of one dramatic conflict. They fade because of countless small moments of neglect. A message that is never answered. A promise repeatedly postponed. A conversation that always stays on the surface. Trust rarely breaks all at once. More often, it quietly erodes through inattention. The encouraging news is that trust is also rebuilt in small moments. One honest conversation, one sincere apology, one thoughtful question, one promise consistently kept. Great relationships are rarely created through extraordinary gestures. They are built through ordinary acts, repeated with extraordinary consistency. Think of every meaningful relationship as a fire rather than a photograph. A photograph captures one perfect moment but never changes again. A fire, however, must be tended continually. It needs fresh wood, careful attention, and protection from neglect. Ignore it for too long, and the warmth slowly disappears. Feed it with care, and it continues bringing light even through the darkest nights. Many people make another mistake as they age. They continue measuring relationships by quantity instead of quality. They collect acquaintances but lack trusted companions. They know many names but share few honest conversations. Yet genuine connection has never depended on the size of your circle. It depends on the depth of your presence. One person who truly understands you is more valuable than 100 people who only recognize you. That depth begins with something surprisingly simple: listening. Not listening merely to reply, defend, or impress, listening to understand. When someone feels genuinely heard, they begin lowering the walls they have spent years building. Real conversations begin where performances end. You no longer feel the need to appear perfect. You become willing to be authentic, and authenticity invites trust in a way perfection never can. As the years pass, another opportunity emerges. Your experiences become gifts that can strengthen others. Every challenge you've overcome becomes a map for someone still finding their way. Every lesson learned through hardship becomes encouragement for another traveler walking a similar road. This does not require becoming an expert or standing on a stage. Sometimes your greatest contribution is simply being fully present. A calm voice during someone else's uncertainty, a patient ear during another person's frustration, a word of encouragement offered before it is requested. These moments often leave a deeper mark than advice ever could. Relationships also ask for something that becomes easier with maturity, choosing understanding over winning. Not every disagreement deserves a battle. Not every opinion requires correction. Wisdom learns to protect people before protecting pride. The strongest relationships are not those without conflict. They are those where respect survives conflict. As you continue growing older, remember that every person you meet is carrying unseen hopes, disappointments, fears, and dreams. Approaching others with compassion instead of assumption transforms ordinary encounters into meaningful connections. At the end of life, people rarely wish they had spent more hours proving themselves right. They wish they had spent more time loving well, forgiving quickly, encouraging generously, and showing up consistently for the people who mattered most. So ask yourself a different question each day. Whose life will become lighter because I was part of it today? That single question shifts your focus from receiving connection to creating it. And something remarkable happens when you become someone who consistently builds trust, offers kindness, and strengthens others. You begin to discover a quieter form of strength, the ability to remain calm, steady, and compassionate, regardless of what life places in front of you. That inner strength is where our journey leads next. It is time to master your emotions before they begin mastering you. Chapter 7. Master your emotions before they master you. The relationships you build with others will always reflect the relationship you have with yourself. You can learn to communicate well, offer kindness, and earn trust, but if your emotions control every decision, every connection becomes fragile. Lasting growth requires more than physical strength or intellectual ability. It requires emotional steadiness. Many people think emotional maturity means feeling less. It means feeling more clearly. There is a difference. Imagine a lake surrounded by mountains. On a windy day, the surface is restless. Waves scatter reflections in every direction, making it impossible to see what lies beneath. But when the wind settles, the water becomes still enough to reflect the sky with remarkable clarity. The lake hasn't changed its depth, only its surface has changed. The human mind behaves much the same way. When anger, fear, pride, or frustration take control, reality becomes distorted. Small problems appear enormous. Ordinary disagreements become personal attacks. Temporary setbacks feel permanent. But when your emotions become steady, your judgment becomes clearer. You begin responding to life as it is instead of reacting to how it momentarily feels. This is one of the greatest advantages of growing older if you choose to develop it. Life offers countless opportunities to practice emotional discipline. Plans fail. People disappoint you. Unexpected challenges interrupt carefully prepared routines. You cannot prevent every storm from arriving, but you can decide how you will stand when it does. Picture an experienced ship captain navigating through rough seas. A new captain might panic at every towering wave, constantly changing direction in search of calmer water. The experienced captain understands something different. Waves cannot always be avoided. What matters is maintaining control of the ship while moving through them. Emotions are like those waves. You cannot stop them from rising. You can learn not to surrender the wheel. One of the most valuable habits you can develop is creating a pause between what happens and what you choose to do next. That pause may last only a few seconds, but within it lies remarkable power. Someone criticizes you unfairly. Pause. A difficult conversation takes an unexpected turn. Pause. An opportunity disappears. Pause. Disappointment arrives without warning. Pause. That brief moment creates space for wisdom to enter before impulse takes over. Too many people confuse immediate reaction with authenticity. They believe every feeling deserves instant expression. Yet not every emotion deserves immediate action. Feelings are important messengers, but poor leaders. They provide information, not instructions. Imagine receiving letters every morning from different visitors. One letter is written by fear, another comes from excitement, another from anger, another from hope. Reading every letter is wise because each contains useful information. Handing every visitor the keys to your house would be reckless. Your emotions deserve attention. They should not receive complete authority. As the years pass, emotional strength becomes increasingly valuable because it protects everything else you've built. It protects relationships from unnecessary conflict. It protects opportunities from careless decisions. It protects health by reducing the constant burden of chronic stress. It even protects your sense of purpose when circumstances become uncertain. Another quiet sign of maturity is learning that not everything deserves your energy. Some arguments produce no understanding. Some criticisms require no defense. Some opinions lose their influence the moment you stop chasing their approval. Imagine carrying a lantern through a dark forest. The lantern contains only enough oil to burn for one night. If you waste its light illuminating every distraction along the path, you may run out before reaching your destination. But if you direct that light toward what truly matters, it safely guides every step. Your emotional energy works exactly the same way. Spend it intentionally, protect it carefully, offer it generously where it creates value. There is another lesson that often arrives with age. Strength and gentleness are not opposites. The strongest people are rarely the loudest or the most intimidating. They possess something far more difficult to develop. They remain calm when others panic. They remain respectful when others become hostile. They remain hopeful when circumstances encourage despair. That kind of strength cannot be borrowed. It must be practiced. Every challenge becomes another opportunity to build it. Every disappointment becomes another chance to choose patience over resentment. Every misunderstanding becomes another invitation to replace pride with humility. Over time, these repeated choices shape a person whose peace is no longer controlled by changing circumstances. Instead of allowing the outside world to dictate their inner world, they carry stability with them wherever they go. Ask yourself a simple question whenever life becomes difficult. Am I trying to control the situation, or am I learning to control myself? The answer often reveals where your true power lies. Because the person who masters their emotions gains something that cannot be purchased, inherited, or taken away, a quiet confidence that remains steady through success and failure, praise and criticism, certainty and uncertainty. And once you develop that inner stability, another realization naturally follows. You begin to understand that your greatest resource is not your money, your possessions, or even your talent. It is your time. The way you choose to spend it will determine everything that comes next. Chapter 8. Protect your time, like your future depends on it. Once you learn to guide your emotions instead of being driven by them, you begin to notice something that was always there but often overlooked. Every emotion, every habit, every relationship, and every dream competes for the same limited resource: your time. Unlike energy, time cannot be restored with a good night's sleep. Unlike money, it cannot be earned back once it has been spent. Unlike knowledge, it cannot be accumulated for later use. Every day places 24 fresh hours into your hands, and every night quietly takes away whatever you chose not to use. There are no refunds, no extensions, and no second inventory waiting in storage. That reality is not meant to create fear. It is meant to create intention. Imagine that every morning someone leaves a blank canvas outside your front door. By sunset, the canvas is collected forever. You don't get to keep an unfinished version. You can't ask for another attempt at yesterday's painting. Whether you filled it with vibrant colors, rough sketches, or left it completely blank, that day's canvas becomes a permanent part of your life's gallery. Time works exactly the same way. Every day becomes a picture of your priorities, not your stated priorities, your lived priorities. People often say they value their health, yet postpone every opportunity to move their bodies. They say family matters most, yet spend more attention on notifications than conversations. They claim they want to learn, create, or contribute, but allow countless distractions to quietly consume the hours they once promised themselves. Your calendar tells the truth that your intentions sometimes hide. This isn't about becoming endlessly productive or filling every minute with work. A meaningful life is not measured by how busy you are. It is measured by how deliberately you choose what deserves your attention. Picture an experienced sculptor standing before a massive block of stone. Someone watching from a distance might think the sculptor is creating something by adding more material. In reality, the opposite is happening. With every careful strike, the sculptor removes what doesn't belong until the hidden masterpiece begins to appear. A fulfilling life is shaped in much the same way. It grows stronger not because you continually add more commitments, but because you become brave enough to remove the unnecessary ones. Every unnecessary obligation steals attention from something essential. Every meaningless distraction quietly borrows hours from a dream that still deserves your effort. Every automatic yes often becomes a silent no to something far more valuable. Growing older gives you a remarkable advantage. You begin recognizing that not every opportunity deserves acceptance. Some invitations lead nowhere. Some responsibilities belong to someone else. Some habits continue simply because they've become familiar, not because they remain meaningful. Learning to say no is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of stewardship. Imagine carrying a lantern through an endless tunnel. The lantern burns with a steady flame, but the oil inside is limited. If you stop to illuminate every side path, every distraction, and every passing curiosity, the light grows weaker long before you reach your destination. But if you protect that flame and direct it toward the path that truly matters, it carries you much farther than you ever imagined. Your attention is that flame. Where it shines, your life grows. Where it is scattered, progress slows. This is why simple daily rituals matter so much. A quiet morning walk, reading a few thoughtful pages before reaching for your phone, sharing an uninterrupted meal with someone you love, reflecting before sleep on what truly mattered that day. These moments may appear ordinary, yet over years they become the framework of an extraordinary life. The greatest achievements are rarely created in dramatic bursts of effort. They are built through ordinary hours, honored with extraordinary consistency. As you continue growing, ask yourself a different question each morning. Not, what can I accomplish today? Ask, what deserves today's irreplaceable hours? That single question changes your relationship with time. It transforms your schedule from a list of obligations into a reflection of your deepest values. Because your future is not waiting somewhere ahead. It is quietly taking shape inside the choices you make today. Every focused hour becomes another stone in the foundation of the life you are building. Every intentional conversation strengthens a relationship. Every healthy habit protects tomorrow's possibilities. Every meaningful act of learning expands the person you are becoming. Years do not become valuable simply because they accumulate. They become valuable because they are invested with purpose. And when you begin treating time as your most precious resource instead of your most overlooked possession, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing a life that merely looks successful and start creating one that genuinely feels meaningful. That realization naturally leads to the next step in your journey. Once you learn to invest your time wisely, you begin collecting something far more valuable than possessions. You begin collecting experiences that quietly transform the person you become. Chapter 9. Collect experiences that compound into wisdom. Once you begin protecting your time, another truth slowly reveals itself. Time is not valuable simply because it passes. It becomes valuable because of what you choose to do with it. Hours invested with intention become experiences, and experiences, when reflected upon, become wisdom. That is how an ordinary life becomes an extraordinary one. Many people spend years collecting things while neglecting the moments those things were meant to enhance. They believe another purchase will create lasting satisfaction, another upgrade will bring lasting happiness, or another achievement will finally make them feel complete. Yet the excitement fades surprisingly fast, leaving them searching for the next acquisition. Experiences follow a different path. Instead of losing value with time, they often gain it. Imagine an old journal resting on a bookshelf. At first glance, it appears ordinary. Its pages are worn, its cover faded, and its edges softened by years of use. But when you open it, every page contains a memory, a lesson learned, a challenge overcome, a place explored, a conversation that changed a life. The journal becomes more meaningful with every passing year because its true worth is not found in the paper, it is found in the life recorded within it. Your mind carries a journal like that. Every meaningful experience writes another page. Every challenge adds another chapter. Every act of courage leaves another sentence worth remembering. The remarkable part is that these memories do more than remind you where you've been. They quietly shape who you become. Picture a glass blower creating a beautiful piece of art. The glass is heated until it becomes flexible, then carefully shaped through skill, patience, and repeated adjustment. Once it cools, it holds a completely new form. Human experience works in much the same way. Difficult moments, joyful seasons, unexpected opportunities, and unfamiliar environments all soften old assumptions and reshape your perspective. When you emerge from those experiences, you are no longer exactly the same person who entered them. That is why comfort, while pleasant, can become deceptive. A life spent avoiding uncertainty may feel safe, but it often limits growth. The richest lessons rarely arrive through routines that never change. They appear when you try something unfamiliar, meet people whose stories differ from your own, explore places that challenge your assumptions, or say yes to opportunities that require courage. Growth often hides behind unfamiliar doors. Think about two musicians given identical instruments. The first carefully protects the instrument inside its case, afraid that using it too often might wear it out. Years later, it remains polished but silent. The second musician plays every day. The instrument gathers scratches, the strings are replaced many times, and the wood slowly reflects years of practice. Which instrument carries greater value? The one filled with music, Human life is no different. You are not here to remain perfectly preserved. You are here to be fully lived. This does not mean chasing constant excitement or filling every calendar with endless activity. Meaningful experiences are not measured by distance traveled or money spent. Some of the most transformative moments happen in places that appear completely ordinary. A long conversation with a parent before they grow older, teaching a child a skill that shapes their confidence, watching the sunrise after overcoming a difficult season, helping a stranger without expecting recognition, choosing forgiveness when resentment would have been easier. These experiences rarely make headlines, yet they quietly redefine the person you become. Another beautiful quality of meaningful experiences is that they continue teaching long after they are over. A difficult season may seem painful while you're living through it, but years later, it often becomes the source of your greatest resilience. A failed attempt may eventually become the reason you approach the next opportunity with greater wisdom. A simple act of kindness may inspire another person to change the direction of their own life, creating consequences you may never witness. The value keeps expanding. Like ripples moving across a still lake, one meaningful experience often influences dozens of future decisions without you even realizing it. As you grow older, stop asking whether life is giving you enough excitement. Instead, ask a deeper question. Am I collecting moments that are shaping me into someone wiser, kinder, and more courageous? That question transforms the purpose of every day. It reminds you that the greatest return on your time is not measured by what you own, but by who you become. Because experiences are more than memories. They are the workshops where character is refined, perspective is expanded, and purpose becomes clearer. And eventually, something remarkable happens. After years of learning, growing, failing, succeeding, and changing, you realize that the greatest value of your journey is no longer what it has given you. It is what you are now able to give to someone else. That is where true growth reaches its highest expression, and it is the journey we begin in the next chapter. Chapter 10. Multiply your growth by lifting others. There comes a point in every meaningful journey when personal growth reaches a crossroads. One path continues inward, asking, "How much more can I achieve?" The other turns outward and asks a far more powerful question, "Who can become stronger because I have lived?" The second path changes everything. Until now, this audiobook has focused on building you, your mindset, your character, your health, your relationships, your emotional strength, and your use of time. But growth was never meant to stop with one person. A tree does not produce fruit for itself. A lamp does not create light so it can admire its own brightness. The highest purpose of becoming better is helping someone else become better too. Imagine a traveler climbing a steep mountain for the very first time. The path is confusing, the weather unpredictable, and the climb exhausting. After many setbacks, the traveler finally reaches the summit. The view is breathtaking, but something unexpected happens. Looking down, the traveler notices others beginning the same difficult ascent. At that moment, a choice appears. You can simply celebrate your own arrival. Or you can walk back down part of the trail, place markers along dangerous turns, repair broken paths, and leave signs that make someone else's journey a little easier. The mountain remains challenging, but fewer people become lost. That is the quiet power of contribution. Many people assume they have nothing valuable to offer because they are not famous, wealthy, or recognized as experts. Yet wisdom rarely begins with titles. It begins with experience honestly lived. Every obstacle you have overcome contains a lesson that someone else has not learned yet. Every mistake you survived may become the encouragement another person desperately needs. Your greatest qualification is not perfection, it is progress. Think about a candle lighting another candle. The original flame loses nothing by sharing its fire. In fact, the room becomes brighter with every new light that appears. Knowledge works that way. Kindness works that way. Courage works that way. Generosity works that way. The more they are shared, the more valuable they become. Sometimes lifting others requires practical guidance. You teach a skill, share a strategy, or offer advice drawn from your own experience. Other times, your influence is much quieter. You believe in someone before they believe in themselves. You remain patient when another person is struggling. You listen without rushing to provide solutions. You encourage effort instead of demanding perfection. These moments may seem small. They rarely are. Imagine a single seed carried by the wind into an empty field. It grows into one tree. Years later, that tree provides shade, produces thousands of new seeds, protects the soil beneath it, and creates a place where birds build nests. The original seed never witnessed the full impact of its existence. Neither will many of your actions. A conversation that takes only 5 minutes may inspire someone to make a decision that changes the next 20 years of their life. A simple act of kindness may interrupt another person's loneliness. A word of encouragement offered at the right moment may become the reason someone refuses to give up. You may never know the outcome. That does not make it any less real. As you grow older, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop measuring success only by what you accumulate. Instead, you notice the lives you've influenced, the confidence you've helped restore, and the opportunities you've created for others. You discover that significance lasts longer than achievement because achievement ends with you, while significance continues through the people you have strengthened. There is another important truth. Helping others is not the same as rescuing them. You cannot live another person's life. You cannot make every decision for them or remove every obstacle from their path. Real contribution does not create dependence. It creates capability. It gives people the confidence and tools to continue growing long after you step aside. A skilled gardener does not pull every plant upward to make it grow faster. The gardener prepares healthy soil, provides water, removes weeds, and trusts the natural process of growth. In the same way, your role is not to control someone else's future. It is to create conditions where growth becomes possible. Ask yourself a simple question every morning. Who can I leave stronger than I found them today? The answer does not require extraordinary opportunities. It may be your family, a friend, a colleague, a neighbor, or even someone you'll meet for only a few moments. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to leave behind a little more hope, clarity, courage, or kindness than was there before. This is how growth begins multiplying. One improved life inspires another. One generous act encourages another. One courageous decision gives someone else permission to make their own. Soon, your influence reaches places your footsteps never will. And that is one of the greatest rewards of growing older. The years no longer become a record of what you have gained for yourself. They become evidence of how many lives became brighter because you chose to keep growing. Once you understand that your life is meant to create value beyond yourself, another challenge naturally appears. How do you continue growing when the world around you never stops changing? The answer is found in your willingness to reinvent yourself before life demands it. Chapter 11. Reinvent yourself before life forces you to. The greatest danger in growing older is not change. It is resisting change. By this point in your journey, you have strengthened your character, cared for your body, expanded your mind, released unnecessary burdens, deepened your relationships, mastered your emotions, protected your time, collected meaningful experiences, and discovered the power of lifting others. Yet none of these achievements guarantee your future if you become unwilling to evolve. Life has a simple rule. What refuses to adapt eventually becomes irrelevant. Imagine a lighthouse standing beside a coastline that slowly changes over centuries. The sea reshapes the shore, new rocks emerge, old channels disappear, and shipping routes are redrawn. If the lighthouse continues pointing toward waters that no longer exist, it still stands tall, but it no longer serves its purpose. Its strength becomes meaningless because it stopped adjusting to reality. People can fall into the same trap. Many spend years building an identity around one job, one role, one success, or one version of themselves. They become so attached to who they were that they stop becoming who they could be. Instead of writing new chapters, they keep rereading the old ones, hoping the story will somehow move forward on its own. But life is not a photograph. It is a living landscape. Every season asks something different from you. The courage that carried you through your 20s may need to become wisdom in your 40s. The ambition that built your career may later need to become generosity. The confidence that helped you stand out may eventually need to become humility so others can grow beside you. Growth is not about abandoning who you are. It is about expanding who you can become. Picture a craftsman who spends decades mastering one set of tools. His work is admired and his reputation grows. Then, a new material is introduced, stronger, lighter, and capable of creating designs that were once impossible. The craftsman has two choices. He can reject the new material because it feels unfamiliar, or he can become a beginner again. Choosing to become a beginner after becoming successful is one of the bravest decisions a person can make. Most people avoid it. Beginners make mistakes. Beginners ask questions. Beginners feel uncertain. Yet every expert was once willing to experience those same uncomfortable moments. Reinvention always begins with humility. It begins by admitting that yesterday's methods may not solve tomorrow's problems. It requires replacing the desire to protect your reputation with the desire to continue learning. Pride says, "I already know enough." Growth quietly replies, "There is always another level." Think about a river flowing through a valley. It never argues with the rocks in its path. It doesn't demand that the landscape remain unchanged. Instead, it adjusts its course while continuing toward the ocean. Sometimes it moves around obstacles. Sometimes it patiently shapes them over time. Its destination remains the same, even though its path constantly changes. That is intelligent adaptation. You don't need to abandon your values when circumstances change. Your principles can remain steady while your methods evolve. Integrity, kindness, discipline, and purpose are your compass. How you express those qualities should continue growing with every stage of life. Many people fear reinvention because they confuse it with starting over. But reinvention is rarely about beginning from nothing. It is about building from everything you've already learned. Every challenge you've overcome becomes part of your foundation. Every lesson you've collected becomes another tool. Every failure becomes evidence that you survived uncertainty before and can do it again. Nothing meaningful from your past is wasted. It becomes the material from which your future is constructed. As the years pass, ask yourself questions that keep your life moving forward. What skill have I stopped developing? What belief deserves to be questioned? What dream have I quietly postponed? What version of myself have I outgrown? Questions like these prevent comfort from becoming a permanent address. There is something wonderfully freeing about refusing to let age define your possibilities. Learning a new language at 60, beginning a business at 50, returning to education at 70, changing careers, discovering a creative passion, or rebuilding your health after years of neglect are not acts of denial. They are acts of renewal. Every new beginning quietly declares, "My story is still being written." That mindset transforms aging from a process of gradual limitation into a process of continuous expansion. The years no longer become barriers. They become building materials, and every lesson you've gathered makes the next version of yourself wiser than the last. So stop asking whether it is too late to change. Ask whether you are willing to remain teachable, because the moment you stop learning, you begin shrinking. The moment you become willing to grow again, life opens doors you could not see before. And once you understand that reinvention is a lifelong discipline, one final realization emerges. As you continue becoming more capable, more resilient, and more purposeful, you must decide what deserves your deepest protection. Not everything you gain is equally valuable. The greatest treasures are the ones time can never replace. Chapter 12. Invest in what time can never replace. After learning to reinvent yourself, a new responsibility emerges. Growth is no longer just about discovering new opportunities. It is about protecting the things that make those opportunities worthwhile. As people move through life, they naturally accumulate more possessions, more responsibilities, more commitments, more ambitions. Yet one of the greatest lessons that comes with maturity is realizing that not everything deserves equal protection. Some things can be replaced, others cannot. Imagine a traveler crossing a vast desert with a wagon full of belongings. Along the journey, they collect beautiful objects from every town they visit. At first, each new item seems valuable. But as the miles pass, the wagon becomes heavier, the horses slow down, progress becomes exhausting. Eventually, the traveler reaches a steep mountain pass where only a lighter wagon can continue. At that moment, a difficult choice appears. Keep everything and stop moving, or leave behind what is merely valuable to protect what is truly essential. Life quietly presents us with that same choice. Many people spend years protecting things that impress others while neglecting the things that sustain them. They guard their reputation but ignore their peace. They build wealth while sacrificing their health. They chase recognition while neglecting the relationships that gave their life meaning in the first place. The greatest treasures are rarely the most visible. Think of your life as a great house built over many years. Every room has a purpose, but only a few contain the foundation that keeps the entire structure standing. If the furniture disappears, the house remains. If the paint fades, it can be restored. But if the foundation begins to crack, every beautiful room above it is eventually affected. Your life has foundations too. Your health is a foundation. Your character is a foundation. Your peace of mind is a foundation. Your meaningful relationships are a foundation. Your financial stability is also a foundation, not because money defines success, but because wise stewardship creates freedom, reduces unnecessary stress, and allows you to make decisions based on purpose rather than desperation. These are the assets that time cannot easily rebuild once they are neglected. Many people think investment applies only to money, but every day you are making investments far beyond your finances. Every hour of quality sleep is an investment. Every honest conversation is an investment. Every disciplined choice strengthens an invisible account that compounds over time. Every act of integrity increases trust, and trust often opens doors that talent alone never could. Imagine two gardeners planting identical orchards. The first spends all of their energy decorating the entrance. They build elegant fences, colorful signs, and impressive pathways. The second spends most of their effort enriching the soil beneath the trees. At first, the first orchard appears more attractive. Visitors are impressed. Years later, however, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. One orchard looks beautiful but struggles to produce fruit. The other quietly feeds generations. Why? Because appearances attract attention. Foundations produce results. The same principle applies to your life. Never become so busy polishing the outside that you forget to strengthen what keeps everything standing. This also changes how you define success. Success is no longer measured only by promotions, possessions, or public recognition. Success becomes waking up with energy instead of exhaustion. It becomes having people you trust and who trust you in return. It becomes making decisions without betraying your values. It becomes having enough financial stability to choose wisely instead of reacting out of fear. It becomes ending each day with peace instead of constant regret. These forms of wealth grow quietly. They do not always attract applause, but they create a life that becomes stronger instead of more fragile with every passing year. There is another investment that often goes unnoticed: your attention. Where your attention consistently goes, your future slowly follows. If your attention constantly chases comparison, dissatisfaction grows. If it chases learning, wisdom grows. If it seeks gratitude, contentment grows. If it serves meaningful work and meaningful people, purpose grows. Attention is the silent architect of destiny. Protect it as carefully as you protect your time. As you continue growing older, simplify your definition of what deserves your loyalty. Protect your health because it allows you to fully experience life. Protect your character because it earns trust that no amount of success can buy. Protect your peace because a restless mind cannot fully enjoy even the greatest achievements. Protect your relationships because love gives every accomplishment its true value. Protect your financial stability because it creates opportunities instead of limitations. Above all, protect your ability to keep growing because that is the one investment that strengthens every other part of your life. Ask yourself one powerful question. If everything unnecessary disappeared tomorrow, what would I fight to preserve? Your answer reveals what truly matters. And once you learn to guard the treasures that time cannot replace, you naturally begin thinking beyond your own lifetime. You stop asking only how you will live. You begin asking what your life will leave behind. That question marks the beginning of your greatest contribution, the legacy you start building long before your final chapter is written. Chapter 13. Create a legacy that outlives you. There comes a moment when personal success is no longer the most important measure of a life. The focus quietly shifts from what you have accomplished to what will continue because you were here. This is where growth reaches its highest purpose, not in collecting achievements, but in creating a lasting influence that continues long after your own footsteps have faded. Many people misunderstand the word legacy. They imagine statues, famous names, remarkable fortunes, or extraordinary public recognition. But most legacies are built far from headlines. They are created in kitchens, classrooms, workshops, neighborhoods, offices, and quiet conversations that never appear in history books. Legacy is not reserved for extraordinary people. It is created by ordinary people who consistently choose extraordinary values. Imagine an old well standing at the center of a village. No one remembers exactly who dug it. The builder's name has disappeared with time, yet every morning families still gather there for water. Children laugh nearby. Travelers refill their bottles before continuing their journey. Gardens flourish because that well continues giving long after its creator is gone. The builder became forgotten. The contribution did not. That is the nature of a meaningful legacy. It continues serving people who may never know your name. Every chapter of this audiobook has been preparing you for this realization. You challenged false beliefs about aging. You strengthened your character. You cared for your body. You trained your mind. You released emotional burdens. You deepened your relationships. You learned emotional discipline. You protected your time. You sought meaningful experiences. You lifted others, embraced reinvention, and invested in what truly matters. None of those lessons were ends in themselves. They were preparation, because a life that continually grows naturally becomes a source of growth for others. Think of a single oak tree standing in an open field. Its greatest gift is not simply that it survives for many years. Over time, it creates shade for weary travelers. Its branches become homes for birds. Its roots strengthen the surrounding soil. Its fallen leaves enrich the ground for future growth. The tree never announces its importance. It simply continues contributing through its existence. Your life can become like that, not by seeking admiration, but by creating value wherever you stand. One of the most powerful ways to build a legacy is through example rather than instruction. People may forget many of your words, but they rarely forget the consistency of your actions. They remember how you responded during difficult seasons. They remember whether your kindness remained steady when circumstances became uncomfortable. They remember whether your integrity survived moments when no one was watching. Character leaves fingerprints that time cannot erase. Another part of legacy is passing forward what life has taught you. Knowledge becomes more valuable when it is shared. Encouragement becomes stronger when it is offered freely. Wisdom grows deeper when it helps another person avoid unnecessary suffering. You do not need to have all the answers. Sometimes sharing one honest lesson from your own experience becomes exactly what another person needs to hear. Picture a relay race stretching across generations. Every runner receives a baton for only a short distance. No one keeps it forever. The responsibility is not to own the baton. The responsibility is to carry it well and place it into stronger hands before your own race is complete. Life works much the same way. You inherited opportunities created by people who came before you. Some gave you knowledge, others gave you courage, love, discipline, education, or simple acts of generosity. Whether they realized it or not, they helped shape the person you became. Now, the baton rests in your hands. The question is not whether you will leave something behind. You will. The real question is what you will leave behind. Will people inherit your fears or your courage, your bitterness or your compassion, your excuses or your discipline, your comfort or your willingness to keep growing? Every choice you make answers those questions long before your life is complete. One encouraging truth is that legacy is not built during a single extraordinary moment. It grows through thousands of ordinary decisions repeated over many years. Every promise you keep strengthens trust. Every act of generosity expands hope. Every lesson you pass on plants another seed that may flourish in a future you will never witness. That is why today's choices matter so deeply. The habits you practice become the standards others observe. The values you protect become the values others respect. The life you live quietly gives permission for others to live with greater purpose as well. As you continue growing older, stop asking whether the world will remember your name. Ask a more meaningful question. Will someone live better because I lived well? If the answer becomes yes, your years have already achieved something remarkable. Because the greatest legacy is not measured by monuments, titles, or possessions. It is measured by lives strengthened, hope restored, wisdom shared, and opportunities created. When your life becomes a source of light for others, time no longer measures what you have lost. It measures what continues to grow because you chose to become better with every passing year. And that leads us to the final step of this journey, a life where every new birthday is no longer a reminder that time is running out, but a celebration that your best contribution can still be ahead of you. Chapter 14. Live each new year better than the last. You have arrived at the final chapter, but this is not an ending, it is a threshold. Everything you have explored throughout this audiobook has pointed toward one simple truth. Age is not a destination, it is a direction. Every passing year is asking the same question in a different form. Will you allow time to shape you by chance, or will you shape your life with purpose? That choice never disappears. It arrives every morning. Think about a path through a forest that is walked every day. At first, the trail is barely visible. A few footsteps press gently into the ground. Over time, those footsteps become a clear route that anyone can follow. The trail is not created in one dramatic afternoon. It is formed through countless ordinary walks in the same direction. Your life is no different. Every thought you repeat, every habit you practice, every promise you keep, and every decision you make leaves another footprint. Eventually, those footprints become the road that defines your future. This is why growing better is never an event. It is a pattern. Many people spend years waiting for a perfect season to transform their lives. They imagine that one remarkable opportunity, one inspiring conversation, or one breakthrough moment will suddenly make everything different. Real transformation rarely works that way. It is built quietly, a healthier meal instead of an easier one, a difficult conversation instead of comfortable silence, a chapter read instead of another hour of distraction, a walk taken when excuses feel convincing, a kind response when anger would have been easier. These choices appear ordinary when viewed alone, but together they become the architecture of an extraordinary life. Imagine a master clockmaker carefully assembling an intricate mechanical clock. Every gear is polished, every spring is placed with precision, every tiny adjustment seems insignificant by itself. Yet, if even one piece is ignored, the entire mechanism loses its rhythm. Your life operates with the same precision. Character supports relationships. Relationships strengthen purpose. Purpose inspires discipline. Discipline protects health. Health provides energy. Energy allows service. Service creates legacy. Nothing stands alone. Every part strengthens the next. That is why every chapter in this journey naturally led to another. You first changed your understanding of aging because your beliefs influence your actions. You strengthened your character because your actions shape your identity. You cared for your body because your identity must be supported by strength. You expanded your mind because growth requires learning. You released emotional burdens because progress demands freedom. You built deeper relationships because life gains meaning through connection. You mastered your emotions because wisdom requires stability. You protected your time because every meaningful life is built one day at a time. You collected experiences because they become wisdom. You lifted others because growth reaches its highest purpose through contribution. You embraced reinvention because life never stops changing. You invested in lasting values because foundations outlive appearances. Finally, you discovered that legacy is created by the lives you strengthen, not the applause you receive. Now all of those lessons come together. Picture an old vineyard stretching across rolling hills. Every season looks different. Spring brings fresh growth. Summer demands patient care. Autumn rewards faithful work. Winter appears quiet. Yet beneath the surface, preparation for another season is already underway. The vineyard never argues with the seasons. It grows through them. Your life should follow the same rhythm. Some years will ask you to plant, some will ask you to persevere, some will invite you to celebrate, others will require you to begin again. Every season has value when you choose to grow within it instead of resisting it. One of the greatest signs of maturity is no longer competing with younger versions of yourself. Instead, you compete with yesterday's mindset. Your goal is not to reclaim the past. Your goal is to improve the present. You stop saying, "I wish I were younger." You begin saying, "I am becoming wiser." You stop mourning the years that have passed. You start investing in the years that remain. That shift changes everything, because hope is not built by looking backward. Hope is built by continuing forward. As this audiobook comes to a close, remember that there is no finish line for personal growth. There is no final version of yourself waiting somewhere in the future. There is only today's decision to become slightly wiser than yesterday, slightly kinder than yesterday, slightly healthier than yesterday, slightly more courageous than yesterday. Small improvements, repeated consistently, create remarkable lives. So let every birthday become more than a celebration of survival. Let it become evidence of transformation. Let every wrinkle remind you of resilience instead of decline. Let every grey hair remind you of lessons earned rather than youth lost. Let every passing year become another chapter filled with greater purpose, deeper gratitude, stronger character, richer relationships, and broader compassion. When people meet you years from now, may they notice something that no calendar can measure. Not simply that you have lived longer, but that you have lived better. Because in the end, the greatest achievement is not reaching old age. It is reaching each new year with a stronger heart, a clearer mind, a deeper sense of purpose, and a life that continues to make the world around it brighter. That is what it truly means to grow with age. And that journey begins again today. Conclusion. Every meaningful journey eventually reaches a point where learning must become living. This is that moment. You have traveled through ideas that challenge the common belief that aging is a slow retreat from possibility. Instead, you have discovered a different perspective. Every passing year can become another layer of strength, another chapter of wisdom, and another opportunity to shape a life of greater purpose. The calendar has never been the true measure of your potential. Your choices have always carried that responsibility. Think of your life as a fire that has been burning for many years. A neglected fire gradually fades, leaving only cold ashes behind. But a fire that is carefully tended grows steadier with time. It gives warmth without consuming itself, creates light without demanding attention, and becomes a source of comfort for everyone gathered around it. Your life can become that kind of fire, not because you avoided hardship, but because every challenge became another piece of fuel that strengthened your character. Remember what this journey has revealed. You are not defined by your age, but by your willingness to keep learning. Your body deserves care because it carries your purpose. Your mind deserves curiosity because growth ends only when learning stops. Your emotions deserve discipline because peace creates clarity. Your relationships deserve attention because success has little meaning when experienced alone. Your time deserves protection because every day becomes part of the legacy you are building. Most importantly, never believe that your greatest contribution belongs only to your past. Every sunrise places fresh possibilities in your hands. Every conversation is another chance to encourage someone. Every challenge is another opportunity to respond with wisdom instead of fear. Every new year invites you to become a more generous, resilient, thoughtful, and compassionate version of yourself. One day, people may not remember the number of years you lived. They may not remember every achievement you earned or every possession you collected, but they will remember how you made them feel. They will remember your integrity when compromise seemed easier, your kindness when the world felt harsh, your courage when others hesitated, and your quiet example of choosing growth over comfort. So, as this audiobook comes to an end, let one belief remain with you above all others. Do not measure life by the years that pass. Measure it by the wisdom you gain, the character you build, the people you uplift, and the hope you leave behind. The best version of you is not hidden somewhere in the past, waiting to be remembered. It is waiting in the decisions you make tomorrow, next month, and every year that follows. Keep growing, keep learning, keep serving, keep becoming. Because the greatest privilege of growing older is discovering that your capacity to improve, to inspire, and to make a meaningful difference does not disappear with time, it deepens through it. May every year ahead become undeniable proof that you did far more than simply grow older. You chose to grow better.